And I am live. It's today Monday. I'm trying to keep track of my days. Because I wanted to say, welcome to another episode of Mondays with Miko, but I'm doing something a little bit different for Juneteenth. Um, for Juneteenth month, okay? So I hope everybody is having a good day. I'm just going to go and check some of my stuff like I usually do. And for those of you that are watching on replay, I thank you so much. Thank you for your continued support of Mondays with Miko and of this podcast. And I really look forward to sharing these. I have a 3-part podcast series coming up. Oh my goodness, y'all. And it is incredible. Okay. It really, really is. Just in the pre-conversations I've had, I'm just super, super excited to share with you all my guests and kind of some of the things, this Jersey girl has been learning about South Carolina. And, in my South Carolina kind of history journey, it began when I moved here. Hello, guys. Good to see you, Miss Page. Can't wait. Marvin Page, she's on, and she is going to be my special guest on Wednesday, y'all. I see you, Reagan. Good to see you. And I was just saying that my journey into South Carolina history, for me personally, began around 2019. I attended the Progressive Network course, and it was awesome. I learned about Majeska Simpkins and about South Carolina, and then I went to some of these places, going down to Defusky Island, over to Savannah, and I can't wait for you all to meet this guest I have in the green room. We American history is beyond what we get in the books, and so the title of this podcast is the Emancipation Proclamation, the beginning of freedom's promise. And it is so important. It's one of the most important documents in American history, I will say, because if it wasn't for this document, who knows if they would even be in America? Definitely not the way we know it today. So excited about that. We're going to have some conversations about slavery. And in that conversation, there will be some things that are going to come up about race. And, and it's all about us just knowing about the history of our state and how it impacts us right here, even in Mullins. Not even in Mullins, especially in Mullins, with the roots of Mullins being agriculture, right? And so today's episode, we're going to learn about the Emancipation Proclamation from someone that I think is by far well qualified, totally an expert, and I am so excited to introduce you to him. And then on Wednesday, the 24th, we're going to break down Putu Goshala. And Miss Marvin Page is going to be my guest speaker. And for some of you that were whether you were at St. Cat's this past Sunday where I spoke, or you saw the sermon speech that I did online, I talked about Putu Goshala. And on Wednesday, we're going to break it down. You're going to learn a whole lot more about the man, the myth, the legend. And then we're going to wrap up this series next Monday with Miss Carol Ann Gerald Smith. And or maybe Smith Gerald, I'm sorry. And she is going to talk to us about her ancestor, Miss Phyllis Jordan, she was enslaved in a household here in Mullins. So you're going to learn about the household that she was enslaved at. You're going to learn about some of what the family has taken down the road about her life and all that stuff. So without further ado, I am going to bring to the stage my special guest of the evening, Mr. Robert Crawford, with, let me get this right, the Emancipation Proclamation Association, LLC. That's a mouthful, Mr. Crawford.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being on the show. Can you take a couple minutes and just introduce yourself to the people?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Crawford. I serve as president of the Emancipation Proclamation Association, Incorporated, here in Charleston, South Carolina. And I look forward to sharing some information about what we do.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's just go ahead and dig in. So, how long has one? Is there a short name for the Emancipation Proclamation Association? Like I say it every time.
We prefer you saying it every time because people get it mixed up. When we
There you
say we take the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation for granted.
go.
We as a people, we most of us, if you, a matter of fact, if you asked the next 10 people you walk down the street and talk to what the Emancipation Proclamation even meant, they have no idea. So
Wow.
we have left it in place intentionally. We every now and then, we might do EPAI, but when we do the abbreviation, they get it mixed up with another EPA situation, or they think of something else. So for clarity, we want to make sure everyone knows what we stand for.
I'm with you on that 100%, sir. So, how long has the Emancipation Proclamation Association been an organization, and and uh, and how did you come to be part of that organization?
The quick part about it, it's been in existence 161 years. We celebrate actually the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, which has been going on 163 years. So there's been organizations and groups that have been formed prior to our group to support the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. So we do an annual parade celebrating our signing on January 1st.
And so, what was the exact date of the actual signing?
January 1st. Well, now, let me
Eight-
say this. Let me say this as well for your audience. The first declaration, proclamation was actually signed uh, September 22nd, 1862. It
Hmm.
said to the Confederate Army, Confederate States, we're going to give you 100 days to get in line and to free those who are enslaved. They did not want to sign that. So it was issued and officially issued on January 1st that we are free. Not June 19th. We are free January 1st.
And we're going to come back to that. We're definitely going to
Yes,
come
ma'am.
back to the significance of Juneteenth 2.5 years later. So January 1st, 1863, it was officially signed, and they kind of gave them, if I'm hearing you correctly, it was created in September.
Yes, September 22nd. It was actually created prior to that, but it was actually finally finalized. The first formal draft of it was finalized, and we've had conversations on September 22nd. And it was shared with the Confederate States. We need to come back into the Union because that was the big thing. Abraham Lincoln initially wanted the states to come back into the Union. But the other part of that eventually would become, we now wanted you not only come back into the Union, but we want you to free those who are enslaved. And that became the bigger part of the big picture.
Gotcha. And so, just for the folks that are on, that are listening, South Carolina, when we say succeeded, they succeeded from the Union in 1860, right?
Yes.
So at
Uh,
this part in time, January 1st, 1865, South Carolina, help me understand, were they part of the United States? Were they part of another country? What?
no, they were a part of the United States. The There are 10 states that would eventually join with South Carolina included, that would say, hey, well, we no longer want to be a part of the Union of the United States. And the fear was that for Abraham Lincoln and others up Northerners, was that if they allowed slavery to continue, it would spread west. More states would take on being enslaved. So at that time, Abraham Lincoln made a decision. Let's minimize this. Let's stop this now. And
Got you.
that's where the in 1860, after South Carolina and other states had succeeded because they wanted to be their own government. They wanted
Right.
to have their own rights.
They wouldn't have their own rights, but they did not win that war. So we're gonna get to that. So when it comes to the is your organization, do you guys track any of the abolitionist movement or how any of the abolitionists were involved at that time, or is it strictly about the signing of the document?
Primarily by the signing of the documents, but you can't leave, Harriet Tubman and her work out. You can't leave Frederick Douglass and what he did out because they're part of our history, our story,
That's
and
right.
so many
That's right.
others. Yeah, so many
That's
others.
right. Okay, so the Emancipation Proclamation is a document that was signed by the President of the United States on
Yes,
January 1st, 1863, that essentially said, you all can come back as long as you set the slaves free. Or did it just say set the slaves free?
it was primarily a document saying that you must come back. There was a battle. ATM, I hate to say this every time I say it, I kind of get it wrong. ATM, whereas the North, the Union Army finally won a major battle. So that allowed President Lincoln, about 5 days later, I think, to say, okay, let's move now forward on getting this document, this proclamation moving. Because now September 22nd, they say, okay, now y'all got 100 days to come back in Union, or we're going to take everything you want. Now we got General Sherman and others moving through different cities, destroying places. In our history books, we thought that was a bad idea. We didn't understand.
No. Well, you know what though? Let's think about this, right? We didn't understand, but we're watching something similar happen now, right? America's in a war, and it's a war over oil or whatever,
Hmm.
right? But folks are fighting and folks are having to concede and folks are having to give up stuff, right?
Yeah,
When you lose, you got to give up something. And so, you know what's interesting is a lot of people don't think that the Civil War was fought over slavery. But so far, everything you're telling me, it was all about slavery.
primarily it was all about slavery. It was, you went, for those of us who understand, one of the major crops, where we talk about giving up something, was they're going to have to give up making money off selling cotton. One of the
Mm,
major crops. We had the biggest free production going. We're moving cotton to countries like Britain and to France. They were ready to finance this, or they were financing pretty much because we were selling bulk to other countries. Well, now we're cutting off. They didn't want to get any further involved in this because slavery now was something that people even over there did not agree to. They did not want to be buying into, as long as they were getting the product free, fine. The spread of this slavery to other states was going to be an issue for them as well. So they did not want to take any more risk. So now with them backing out, it changed the dynamics of the South. They didn't have that protection. They didn't have that support that they were counting on from others getting involved to support that slave mentality they had for us.
wow. So, and I also read that banks finance slavery because plantation owners were able to get loans and they were able to use slavery as collateral.
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
same way you get a loan for a car today, maybe not a car, let's say a house, right? And you have to put up a down payment or some kind of collateral. People, actual people's bodies were used as collateral. So the banks that became the banks that we all know and love today benefited from
We
this
were looked at
lynching.
as a commodity. We were only a commodity. We could be sold in South Carolina and Charleston streets. We could be almost sold on any corner. When you come to Charleston one of these days, and I'm saying any corner, was pretty much a place they, but there were different spots that they eventually would locate to. Later on, women who were tied, seeing families separated, would have us. They had what they call the slave mart, and we go indoors, be sold indoors. But
Yeah.
you were a commodity. People, like you said, you could buy banks. People were using us as collateral, loaning us out, renting us out. We weren't getting paid. We weren't collecting any kind of monies at the time. Our lives were worth nothing except for
Wow.
labor.
So when you go back to 1860, South Carolina succeeded. Nope. Then they realized that they couldn't do it on their own, and they wanted back in. And to get back in, that's where the Emancipation Proclamation comes from. And so when we think about, I mean, that's huge,
Yeah.
right? This was actual war. So, if we just do a compare and contrast, just so for folks that are listening, if you're paying any kind of attention at all, on what's going on in Iran, is that they're fighting over something with our soldiers and our money. And somebody is going to win or lose that war. And somebody's going to have to concede something. And so now there's this memo of understanding that it seems like, and I know this is not your topic, but I'm just going to put it out there for folks to hear. It seems like we're doing a lot of conceding yet again. But I'm going to park that because we're going to go back to the Emancipation Proclamation. So, we celebrate. Your organization celebrates the signing. Do you have any information or historical relevance as to how the signing went? That very first signing, or was it kind of like a quiet signing?
The initial signing, are we talking about the signing by the
18,
president at that time?
January 1st,
January
1860.
1st signing.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I don't have all the details. I'm not going to
No worries.
do this and tell you a lie because somebody will contradict something I said. But the first signing we know was a public signing in the office by Abraham Lincoln that the president's cabinet, everybody was aware of. The same thing happened, but it had to be done on and officially done on for January 1st. So that way we knew. For those of us who celebrate Watch Night, your families ever went to Watch Night service? Anybody?
Yes.
Anybody
Yes.
ever remember Watch Night
Yes.
service?
Very
Did you
prevalent.
know every year now we would go to celebrate actually the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation that freed those who were enslaved. White slave owners knew. We had people inside the house who worked in their kitchens and on. The word spread that, hey, we're going to be free on January 1st. There's a buzz going on in the community. We're going to be free. Now, let me share this with you. It was so prevalent. Let me share something. In Beaufort, an area called Camp Saxton, Port Royal. Anybody familiar with Port Royal, South Carolina? There's a little area called Camp Saxton where they knew they were going to be freed on January 1st. So there was a big celebration. There was the first of major celebration that's documented that people knew. We knew we were going to be free. Now, there are cities that the Union soldiers had not arrived in yet. Once the Union soldiers arrived there, then they knew that they were free. That's how people in Texas 2 years finally knew that they were free. But in
Wow.
Charleston,
I'm sorry.
not too far from Charleston, 60 miles from Charleston, Union soldiers arrived there. And they knew they were free. And so there's a major celebration. They had everything. They had music, they had bands, they had cookouts on January 1st.
Wow.
They had people coming in from different islands on boats celebrating on January 1st. There was a major celebration on the same little Camp Saxton area at Port Royal. People had more fun than you could imagine. They even sang the national anthem. They had a lady singing that. They had barbecue. They had cookouts on that same day,
On January 1st. So not New
first.
Year's Eve, but on January 1st,
On New Year's Eve, we listened and we
we were
waited.
waiting for
Watch
January
night.
1st because on January 1st, so on New Year's Eve, some of us knew that was our last day in slavery.
Some of us knew that was our last day of slavery.
And we were waiting for, so back to that timeline, because it's interesting to me is that January 1st, 1863, Hannibal Hamlin, the vice president at the time, was an abolitionist, and he was the vice president in 1863. But then Lincoln decided not to run with him, and that next time he ran for re-election, and he ran with Andrew Johnson. So it's really interesting that when we think about the fact that we were free on January 1st, some of us knew we were going to be free. And then you can see how systems are used to kind of break down. Because the people in South Carolina that were running the show, they didn't want us to be free. And
Oh,
we know
no.
that. We know that by looking around today. Robert E. Lee, he was a traitor to the United States of America. He surrendered in the war, essentially, unofficially ending the war, but yet there's schools named after him. There's still statues up after him. This is in 2026, y'all. So can you imagine in 1863 what they was going to try to do to put us back into slavery or to stop us from ever really being free?
And there's some people trying to do that and take you back now.
That part. I'm wondering, I did a speech yesterday. I talked about how it took 100 years to get from 1863 from 1865 to 1864 to 1964, right? So we were still being abused and treated terrible for 100 years before the Civil Rights and the Voting Rights Act. And now they're trying to take that back. But man, you just connected that watch night. The fact that watch night is something. So, man, see, I typically don't go to watch night, but I'm going to change my tune. And watch night has a brand new significance for me.
That's what it's about. That's the teaching part. People have, over the years, recently, more so over the last few years, maybe, they would go and say, well, thank you, Father, for the new refrigerator I got. And thank you, God, my children doing well, and so on. But they didn't know the real purpose was that people were hiding, or maybe they're going to their small individual churches that they had, what we call community churches. And they are in small groups, church groups, private groups, waiting to hear that they were free. Not being that they weren't able to do some things about it, but they had become free at this point. Excuse me.
So Heather has a question. But before I want to get to Heather's question, I want to connect some more dots, right? So we've got 1863. There is this proclamation, and the Union soldiers got to get the word out to everybody that you're free and start burning stuff up and freeing people. But then you have a vice president who was an abolitionist, and who knows why he was kicked off the ticket or why Abraham Lincoln decided to put this Andrew Johnson guy, I'm sorry, with all due respect, because he did become our president, but to put Andrew Johnson on the ticket. So then in April, the Civil War ended with Robert E. Lee, ended in air quotes, I know, with Robert E. Lee surrendering. 6 days later, Lincoln gets killed, and the new president is this Andrew Johnson. And again, all due respect, he was our president. President Andrew Johnson, who was that let's all get along kind of guy and started to undo stuff. This was a mess. This was 2 years of craziness.
Yeah, a lot of craziness.
So
Uh,
here's her question for you. Um, okay. Did it take 2 years for those in Galveston to find out just because it took that long for information to travel that far, or was the information known to the enslavers and withheld?
and you're probably right on
Ooh.
both questions, both answers. Many of them did not want us to still be free. Those who were enslavers did not want you to be free. And the other part, it did take a while. Example, um, even though people were freed, the Union Army came to Beaufort, as I mentioned, to Port Royal, and they celebrated there. The
Mm-hmm.
people in Charleston, the Union armies, with the colored troops, U.S. colored troops, did not arrive in Charleston until February of 1865. So you can imagine that's only 60 miles from Port Royal, but we knew we were free. But the celebrations actually were held at the old Citadel, beginning there, and went on down to the Battery.
And what year was
So,
that?
and that was 1865, February 18th, 1865. So, let alone, so it could have been called Febteenth. Okay, we could be calling it Febteenth, not only
But
Juneteenth.
and I'm gonna come back to the Juneteenth thing in a second, if you don't mind, because the we have documentation in Mullins that in 1865, at least some slaves knew they were free. To me, they were still enslaved because they were still at the plantation, but they knew they were free because when they talk about Putu, they call him Old Man Uncle Putu, a free man. So they
Yeah.
knew. So in Mullins in 1865, they knew they were free. And so I just want to, because there's somebody out there, I think it's from North Carolina, talking about he doesn't celebrate Juneteenth because of, you know, it's based on a lie. Not true, because it did happen in Texas. So here's my position on that. Is that was was Thanksgiving on November 25th? Was Jesus born on December 25th? Was Martin Luther King born on the second Monday in January? Right? Those are holidays that are symbolic.
Hmm.
And during that time, we recognize what happened,
Yes.
right? And I've had the privilege of meeting Opal Lee on a couple occasions. And
Okay.
just like how you have just kept the Emancipation Proclamation as a document alive and what it means, and your organization has done it for 161 years, thank God we now have, it's only 11 holidays, 11 American holidays. And now there's one that's going to be dedicated to us celebrating freedom. Doggone it. This country is a country because of it.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
my two
Thank you.
cents. That's my two
Thank.
cents. All right, so
That's
let's
it.
go back. Let's go back. And that statement was
Let
not
me,
directed at anybody's
Linda,
question. I
and
just
let
had
me
to
say
feel like
this.
I had to get it out.
And let's say this real quick, and I'll get out the way on this thought.
Go ahead.
You mentioned something earlier. Let me throw this at you, everyone. How many of you are 60 years old? Excuse me. Let's do this even better. How many of you were born after 1966?
1969.
Okay. Well, your age group, where anyone born after 1966, was the first generation to actually enjoy all the freedoms that we have today. Remember, the Voting Right Act was only signed in 1965.
That's right.
So in 1966, anybody born after 1966 has now got all the freedoms that we enjoy today.
Right. And then even still, the early folks, they were babies. But like my mom, she was born in 1947. And if she would have been in the South, she couldn't go to any hotel she wanted to go to. She couldn't
Right.
drink at any water fountain she wanted to go to. She still had to be in the back of the bus. That's
Yeah.
that's stuff that we don't teach Americans the significance of it. It looks like a cartoon to some people.
Yeah,
Oh, that's old news. No, it's not.
it's very prevalent. It's current. And if someone is taking away your history, closing up your museums, taking your history out of the books,
Mm.
why wouldn't they want you to read about you? Why wouldn't they want their children to know how they treated you? Why wouldn't they people want to erase everything, all the accomplishments that have been made over the years, even those done in while we were enslaved?
Wow. And sir, I thank you. I thank you because the fact that they are doing that, it's your work and your organization's dedications to the cause. It's up to the rest of us to get your message out, right? And I mean, you should be on CNN, MSNBC, all of that, right? Because it's like you they're not going to tell us. When I say they, I mean the folks that sit down and determine the curriculum.
Yeah,
The curriculum hasn't changed when it comes to history at all to me, right? So you go to even when you go to college, I'm gonna tell you this. My son, real quick, my son he went to Benedict for a year and then he transferred to Rutgers. The exact same, and he took Black history in both places at Rutgers, and then they wouldn't transfer his credit, so he took it at Benedict and Rutgers. It was the exact same book, the exact same book at both places, right?
yeah.
So we as in adults that have the history, which is why, Mr. Crawford, when you said you would do my show, I was dancing. You don't even know. We got to tell our history ourselves. We got to teach our kids. We got to force them. We got to get this podcast, and then we need to go out and say, children, we need to learn, we need to teach you about our history. Not because it minimizes you as a human being, but because we just need to know.
We don't want you to take anything for granted that everything that they have today it was just all hunky dory. It was just all fine back then. As you said, I was born in 1953, and there were some places I still can go. Places I saw with the sign on the door for not for whites only, or there was still the private water fountains or the movie theaters. Certain movie theaters I could go to. One of them happened to be called the Lincoln Theater, named after the president. In Charleston.
Wow.
There were other movies theaters we eventually be able to go to, but there weren't places of we could you go into public stores, people following you around, looking at you like you're about to steal the whole store. Um, it were some crazy times, and we have so much to overcome every day. As being a Black man and a Black woman, you still have so many challenges for us to come. And our children, please don't take it for granted. For those of you and everyone, please forgive me how I say this. Wearing the Juneteenth shirt, I'm proud of you. I like what you're doing. But if it's just for garment for color and it doesn't have any meaning to you, you're wasting some time. Learn about what it means all the way. Don't just running around here. So I love the color shirts. I went to Juneteenth celebration not that long ago. Everybody had on shirts. Oh, the babies and all had on Juneteenth paraphernalia. And I asked maybe 10 people, what you know about the Emancipation, the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation? And they couldn't tell me anything.
I don't know.
They
But
couldn't.
it can't. And that's up to us, right? That's up to us. And I'm gonna talk to African Americans for a minute, if you don't mind, Mr. Crawford. Is that, I grew up, my mom sent me to Catholic school. And when I went to Catholic school, I had to learn about Catholic religion. And then my classmates, when they got to be a certain age, they graduated. They passed, they graduated, they had a party, they got to wear pretty dresses. We had a DJ business. And in a DJ business, we did bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. And the young Jewish children, they would learn about their religion, they would learn about their language, and then they got to be a certain age and they would graduate. I have another
Mhm.
friend, she sent her kids to Greek school. These are all Americans. She
Hmm.
sent her kids to Greek school, and they would learn about their language, and they got to be a certain age, and then they would have a big old party, get a bunch of gifts and all that stuff. What do we do for African American children? I
You
don't
say I'm
blame I don't blame the young kids, right? And I got 4 kids and 6 grandkids, and I am at fault. But it's never too late to stop. We to
never too late.
start, right? And to me, Juneteenth is a start.
Thank you, thank you. One of the things on that same note, I like barbecuing, so
Yeah,
I would cook out with and compete at a time with the Jewish community. The Jewish community, as you say it now, during the competition, we can only use certain ingredients that had
mhm,
certain symbols on their food
that's right.
to compete. I could not go in there with anything that didn't have certain symbols on it. They had a sheet with all the symbols that we can use for different salt,
Yes.
peppers, any
Yep.
seasoning that I wanted to add to the meat. I cooked brisket. I love to cook the brisket, but I could not bring anything that did not have certain symbols that was not listed on the Jewish sheet into that facility to prepare the meat.
Love it.
Same thing you're saying. We have to identify, and we need to identify what's ours. What do we stand with or stand for? What are we identify with being African? Well, what African foods are we really highlighting as ours? If we going, I mean, we've diversified in so many areas, but I like what you're saying. How do
And
we
think
teach
about
our
it too.
children from that?
How do we teach our children? Because the African foods, we brought our foods over here, right? We brought our foods over here from the diaspora with us and seeds, and also, our as the people that prepared the food. So I
Yes.
would, I'm not the one to do it. I'm definitely not the one to do it. But I think that it's time for us to have a conversation to say, what can we do, right? And like Kwanzaa is an attempt that a lot of people don't follow, right?
Amen.
But what can we do? Can we get down as elders? Oh my goodness, I'm 57 now, so I'm in the elder community. But what can we do as elders to create something that will stick? And the one thing that I've learned about the other nationalities is that when they do it, they make it fun. I tell you, my
Hmm.
friends, when they had their first Holy Communion, I was like, that looks like fun. You
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
bar mitzvah, that looks like fun. The old big Greek party, that looks like
Yeah.
fun, right?
Yeah.
Something that was appealing to kids.
And I think you are on to something that we do need to in this if it's not too late,
Mm,
teach and have maybe degrees or levels, whereas we achieve and once you achieve and reach a certain point, not only it's a graduation, but it's a time of celebration for our
yeah,
children, a time of
yes.
recognition for them, because um, we're in integrated school systems now. Uh, we uh, we don't have anything of our own anymore. So our
The
dance and
black
our music,
church, the black
the
church, we
black
got that.
church, we still got the black church, but we don't
Mhm.
go to the black church.
You're right. We don't go.
We have now turned our backs on the one
Yeah.
foundation that's
Mm,
ours. We
mhm.
have turned away from our church because the preacher got a brand new car. Uh,
You're right.
uh,
Oh my God.
we don't
Look,
go for
but
the
let's
word.
talk about what you,
Back to
because
where
you
we were.
guys.
Back to where we were. Let's get back on track.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, see, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is just conversation. But you guys do some fun stuff. So let's tell the people
Yes,
about what the Emancipation Proclamation Association does to raise awareness. And I think you have an annual event, right?
we do. We do. We have a number of things that we have done and are doing. In September, actually, and I pray that others would take a hold of this. In September around September 22nd, maybe have a conversation. Get some panelists together and have a conversation about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, what it
Love
meant to
it.
you all. We've done that. We brought in Dr. Powers and from College Charleston and some other guests to have that conversation around September 22nd. And then In October, for the youth part of it, one of our main fundraisers used to be a king and queen contest. We would have
Oh,
our our young boys and young girls participate and compete in a king and queen contest to raise awareness for them early, beginning early with the Emancipation Proclamation was trying to feed their minds of what's going on.
love
The
it.
winner of the king and queen contest would participate in our annual New Year's Day, January 1st, parade celebration. They get to ride the big float. Chance for them to participate. We take the parade from one of the oldest high schools in Charleston, South Carolina, Burke High School, down to the
Mm.
International African American Museum, where now they had a chance to be a
Wow.
part of the rich history of Charleston. Now this year, we're going to do it again. We have approximately 65 plus floats and participants every year.
60, did you say 65 floats in this parade?
No, excuse me, participants, not floats, excuse me.
Okay,
We
but
have
even still,
floats,
that's great. That's great.
we have floats and bands and organizations participating in our parade. About
That's
65 thus far.
huge. That's
I want to
huge.
I want to get us to 100 this year. My goal is to get 100. Now,
Well,
if I can
count
get
me
somebody,
in. I'll be there.
I'm adding you to the list. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And maybe some of your listeners, maybe they would want to be on January 1st. Now, I know it's a New Year's Day, but look here, God has been good to us. It hasn't rained on that day. The sun has shined on
Mm.
that day. It's been a little cold. Well, it's
And
January.
everything's closed. People don't have to work. I have a friend, Baba Mutowski in Colombia, and I just called you out from the House of Hathor. He has to be in this.
Bring him.
He has to be.
Bring
We
him.
need to connect people from Greenville, from Columbia, and it needs to be multicultural
It
because the
will be.
Emancipation Proclamation is not a black document; it's an American document.
And we can't do it without you. We can't have a celebration without each one of you. We need you. I want to make this one of the best celebrations ever. Matter of fact, and if you have a band, a local band, I'm saying this now out loud. I need their band director to contact me so I can know what the deal is and what they need in order for us to make sure that they're there.
Love
I
it.
want to make sure that they come and I want them to have the best time ever. I want them to celebrate in my city of Charleston, where I grew up at. I was born in New York, but I grew up in downtown Charleston, on the east side of downtown Charleston. So I welcome you to my city.
I love it, and Mullins has the best band on the planet. I
Really?
don't know what they're doing on the first, but we can surely ask them. The Shockwave of the South, under the leadership of Kyron Williams, and they are awesome.
You see what they're
Awesome.
working with. Bring them. If you let us know, let me know what they need.
Awesome.
Let me
Awesome.
know. We want them. We want them to be a part of the celebration. We want
All
them.
right. So if
Uh,
anybody's listening here and knows Kyron, and I'm going to call him too. We all need to be. It is a celebration, and it's
it
okay to
is.
celebrate because it made America what America was. If it wasn't for the Emancipation Proclamation, we was raging in war. Our president was killed. It's just a lot was happening. VP, the changing in VP, and that's a lot.
What would
Political.
happen if the Emancipation Proclamation wasn't signed,
Ooh,
freeing those who were enslaved in 1865? Where would we be, you think? If it wasn't
we
a
wouldn't be
document,
one. There's no way we could be one country. There's no way.
this shows the power of the pen.
Mm,
Don't use it lightly, folks. The power of the
mm.
pen that it freed us. That
And your vote.
signature,
And your vote.
you vote. Your vote counts. Your vote counts. Let's make a difference. Let's show up and show out. This, we want you to know our voices count. But if you don't want to sign or check the dotted box because you think you don't care, it doesn't matter. We lose. We lose every time. We need everyone. And I'm honored, that those who hear this message, maybe they'll tell somebody. please tell somebody about how the signing of the Emancipation. And if you live in South Carolina, I'm just saying that. Don't get. I'm not saying anything against Juneteenth, but you were free early. Okay, I'm just saying. But all of us
Right.
were free together. All of us are
We
free.
knew, right? We knew in 1865. It seems like we knew, and General Sherman was here, right?
We
Now,
knew.
what Andrew Johnson did wasn't right. President Johnson did after, Abraham Lincoln was killed. That was wrong. And rolling all that
Yeah.
stuff back, but that's okay because our story as African Americans is not done yet.
Not even. Not even. And it's not about. We've talked about the past. We've talked somewhat about the present. Now we're going to move into the future,
Go ahead, sir.
which we want, what we want it to look like going forward. How do we want to make a difference? Are we going to make a difference? And this is our chance to tell our story. This is our chance to be a part of the story. This thing we call history, his story, her story. This is our time. If we're going to make a difference, let us do all we can to right what was wrong, to negate what's being said negative about us. We're some good people. We are some blessed people. We are highly favored. That's why we're still here.
Amen.
And we are multiplying. We will multiply on you. Be careful. Be careful what you ask for.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my
I'm
goodness.
just,
Well, look, I think I've done my part in terms of the multiply thing. But look, Mr. Crawford, any final words? Any final words? I love
um,
how you ended it because you ended it with the future. Anything else you want to add to the folk?
I just would like for us as a community to participate this year in as many as possible. I said my goal is to at least have 100 participants in our annual parade. Um, I don't think that's too much to ask. I think we have a community of people who want to support what we do, who want to be educated, who in this season are upset with some things that are going on around our world. And if we are going to do anything other than if we don't vote, then we lose. If we don't participate in our communities, we lose. If we don't go to the board meetings and you know that there are people who are not in your favor, are making decisions for you, and you don't have a voice at the table. If you don't pull up a chair and sit at the table, we lose.
Mm.
We need all hands on deck. It's about throughput. And the industry that I worked in is about throughput. How much stuff can we get through the line in the shortest period of time? How much can we
Awesome.
produce? So we need to be about producing. We are producing people, you know. I think we can do so much more. God ain't through with us yet. And I look forward to us being there for one another at the end of the day.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, sir, I am so glad that we have that chance meeting. And that we know God doesn't make any mistakes. It was not a chance meeting. So I am just so glad I had the opportunity to meet you at the convention last week. And when you told me the name of your organization, I almost fainted. I could not believe it. Knowing this work, the series, I had it in my head. I was putting it together, and you helped me immensely, more than you'll ever know, sir. So I thank you so much.
He will supply our needs.
Yes, he will. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Okay. And by the
Uh,
way, stay in the green room. I'm gonna come back to
Thank
you
you
in
very
just one
much.
minute. All right. Bye bye. All right. All right, man. I'm full. I learned some things. One, people had told me about watch night before, but knowing that watch night was because we knew some of us knew that we were going to be free on the first. So we was having that celebration on December 31st in preparation of our freedom as African Americans. And I don't even want to think as African Americans because we know just African Americans, because we know our allies have always been there with us, right? American story has never been told by just one race, one nationality of people, right? So this is a overall story. So the Emancipation Proclamation was more than a document, and that is what Mr. Crawford has explained to us. It was a promise of freedom, and in South Carolina, that promise became a reality as those Union forces continued to fight, right? Because we knew about it. Those Union forces continued to fight. It was bloody. It was not a wonderful thing to experience, but it happened, and it happened right here in South Carolina. And I want to believe, like Mr. Crawford said, our story's not done yet. That we can usher in a whole new chapter of hope, citizenship, and possibilities. And we encourage everyone to go out and vote. And let's vote to make South Carolina a better place for all. I'm so excited, y'all. Please join me again on Wednesday, same time, same place, 7 o'clock, where I will have Miss Marvern Page, and we are going to break down. We're going to break down the Putu Goshalar. And boy, does she have some stories to tell you all about that great man that once walked in Mullins, South Carolina. Have a blessed Monday, everyone.